The first of my two downgrades this week is Caleb Williams going against the Packers in Green Bay. Caleb has finished in the top 10 6 different times this season, with 5 of those 6 opponents being bottom 10 defenses versus quarterbacks in fantasy. In his other 6 games, Williams finished outside of the top 15. In other words, he gets the job done against weaker defenses, but has a struggle against tougher defenses. But this week, Williams faces a Packers defense that is allowing the 6th fewest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks and has only allowed 2 top 10 quarterbacks all season, that being Jared Goff in Week 13 and Dak Prescott in Week 4. While Caleb Williams and the Bears offense has looked a lot better this season, Caleb's 58.1 completion percentage is the lowest in the NFL. The only quarterbacks to have a lower completion percentage in the last 5 seasons are Anthony Richardson and Zach Wilson. Obviously not good company to keep. Now, Caleb has been elevating his output with his rushing ability, as he's posted at least 20 rush yards in 5 of his last 6 games. And on top of that, he's tied for 5th most rush attempts among quarterbacks this season. However, the Packers have allowed a league-low 108 rush yards to QB scrambles and the 3rd fewest yards per QB scramble this season. If you can get away from it this week, I'd try to find a different option at quarterback and plug in someone else while you wait for Caleb to get a different matchup. If you can wait long enough, he has a great matchup in the Fantasy Championship Week 17 against the 49ers. All right, last but not least, the last matchup downgrade is Oronde Gadsden II. Now, he had a really big midseason spike in his fantasy points, but over his last 3 games, he's averaging just 4.7 fantasy points per game, and it really doesn't feel like things are going to get much better this week. Justin Herbert is dealing with a broken left hand, and injury aside, he's only had 3 passing touchdowns over his last 3 games. The Chargers have flipped their offensive script, averaging the 5th fewest pass attempts per game since Week 8, after leading the NFL in Weeks 1 through 7. On the other side of the ball, the Eagles are allowing the 4th fewest fantasy points per game and 2nd fewest yards to the tight end position. They have yet to allow 14 plus fantasy points to a tight end this season, and they've allowed 45 plus receiving yards just twice. The 2 tight ends to do so were Travis Kelce and Jake Ferguson, who are 2 of the top 3 tight ends on the season. So if you have another option at tight end on the roster, I'd go ahead and look that way for Week 14. And if you have to do so, maybe even dip in to the waiver wire.